Hi guys, these are the materials you're going to need. Go ahead and pause the video if you need to go get those. If you're all set, then you're going to open up to the next page in your math notebook and copy down the notes that I have right here. Mine is in like a marker pen, but that's just so that you can see it. I want you guys to use pencil. Go ahead and pause it to be able to write or copy that down. And then when you're ready, unpause and follow along with me, okay? So today we're going to just practice a little bit more rounding. I am specifically giving you examples that are going to be in the thousands or the hundreds, and that you're only going to round to the tens or the hundreds because this seemed to be where we needed the most practice and review. So a different strategy that I'm going to show you is like underlining and using arrows, and that'll all make sense once we start. So if I look at this number, 4,683, I need to round it to the nearest tens. What I'm going to do is I'm going to underline the place value I need to underline, or I'm sorry, that I need to round to. And I'm going to put an arrow over the digit to the right. Let me zoom this in. Here we go. And then to know what number is rounding down and what number is rounding up, here's a little trick. I'm going to write the value of that underlined digit right underneath here, and then I'm going to make sure that I copy those other digits there. And since I'm rounding to the nearest tens, I want to say, okay, is this number closer to this amount of tens, or the next set of tens would be, this would become a 90, right? 4,690. The digit that I'm pointing to with that arrow, if it is a 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4, then I'm going to round down, which means I'm choosing the smaller number. If the digit that I'm pointing the arrow to is a 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, it means I'm going to round up. I'm going to choose the larger number. So since I'm pointing to a 3, I'm actually going to round down. Okay. Now when I'm doing it with the hundreds, when I have to round to the nearest hundreds, I'm going to underline the hundreds place, and I'm going to point to the place value that is to the right. And I'm going to write the numbers that I'm going to decide if I'm rounding down or rounding up. And the way that I do that is I write the value of that underlined digit, and then I make sure that I include the parts that came before it. So is this number closer to 4,600, or the next set of hundreds would be, like if I were counting by 100, I would go up to 4,700. Well, based on the rule that I just told you, this digit that I'm pointing to is an 8, so that means I'm going to round up. I'm going to choose the higher number. Okay. Here's another example. 898. All right, when I'm rounding it to the nearest tens, I'm going to underline that tens place, point to the digit that's to the right. I'm going to copy the value of that underlined digit and then make sure that I remember to write everything that came before it. My next set of tens, if I were counting by tens, I would go up to 900. So is 898 closer to 890, or is it closer to 900? Well, based on my rule, it's closer to 900. When I'm rounding this to the nearest hundreds, I'm going to underline the hundreds place, point to the digit to the right. Okay. I'm going to write the value of that underlined digit, and I don't have anything to make sure that I copy beforehand. Now if I'm counting by 100ths, my next hundreds would be 900. So I want to know, is 898 going to be closer to 800 or closer to 900? Well, based on my rule, I'm pointing to a 9, so that means I'm going to round up. Next example. $8,564. In this column, I'm rounding to the nearest 10, so I'm going to underline that 6 and point to the digit to the right. I'm going to write the value of that underlined digit, and then remember to write everything else that comes before it. And my next set of tens would be 8,570. So is this number going to round down or going to round up? Well, I'm pointing to a 4, and 0 through 4 means I round down. Now when I'm rounding to the nearest hundreds, I'm going to underline that hundreds place, point to the digit to the right, write my value of that underlined digit, and be sure to copy everything that comes before it. And if I'm counting by 100s, my next hundreds would be 8,600. I'm pointing to a 6. It tells me I'm going to round up. All right, I'm going to do one more example for you. We have 7,043. I'm rounding to the tens here, so I'm going to underline the tens place and point to the digit to the right. Copy the value of that underlined digit and make sure I include everything that comes before it. My next set of tens, I'd go up by 10. This would become 7,050. I'm pointing to a 3. That tells me I'm going to round down. Over here, I'm going to round to the nearest hundreds. 0 is still a digit. That's still telling us a value, so I'm going to underline the hundreds place, and I'm going to point to the digit to the right. The value of that 0 is 0, right? So I'm going to write it like that, but make sure I include the digit that comes before that. And if I'm counting by 100s, I'm going to go up by 100. It'll look like that. So according to the rule, my arrow is pointing to a 4. That tells me I'm going to round down. So just a couple little points that I want to make sure that we write down here so that you can remember this when you're practicing on Think Central. So you're going to underline rounded place. Now I'm not writing complete sentences because I want this to kind of just get to the point. But just like we practiced, whatever its place value it's telling you to round to, underline that one. And then the arrow means point to the digit to the right. And then our rules, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, round down, and 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, round up. So hopefully that helps. If you know, rounding to these place values with numbers that were in the hundreds or in the thousands. Hopefully this helps if that was a little bit confusing the other day. And again, when you see me, I can always help out. So there you go.